Hello everyone, I'm Georgia and this is The Sound of Georgia. Today I'm going to be ranking all the filmed musicals I have seen. I made a video a while back where I mentioned 3 of the musicals that I would like to see filmed. And that's the same sort of thing I'm talking about today. When I say filmed musical, I'm not talking about a movie adaptation. I'm not talking about a live production. I'm talking about where they filmed the stage production, where they filmed the actors as they played out the show. So I have seen 5. So there is 5 on this list, although I know there are plenty of others out there. I know Les Mis has one. I know they did one for Cats years and years and years and years ago. There's one for Rent. It's got Renee Elise-Goldsberry in it. But I'm not going to see them just to see them. I did my ranking musicals I've seen video, and in that I mentioned how a lot of the musicals I have seen I saw just because I was going to the theatre and it was what was on. Last year and this year I've been trying to do things because I want to do them rather than because I said I would or because I planned it or to say I'd done it. And at this point in my life there are a few filmed musicals out there that I am not desperate to watch. There are a few that I know are out there that I really want to see. I really want to see that version of The King and I. But I'm in Australia and I don't think it streams on Amazon Prime down here. So I wasn't going to watch a whole bunch of others just so this list could be longer. I'm just sticking with the ones I've seen. So we're going to be counting up from number 5 to number 1. And at number 5 we have Victor Victoria. Yes, that's right. The musical with Julie is at the bottom. How does that happen? Well, let me explain. In all honesty, I think I could say I love this filmed production just as much as the next one, or even the next 2, higher on this list. But there is a specific reason that it's at the bottom that doesn't apply to the rest. And that is the movie adaptation. I was watching Victor Victoria. I did have a bit of a, this is so good, why don't I watch this more often thought. But even with that I still turned the TV off knowing that I preferred the movie. And that is unusual. Normally if there's a musical version of something, that will be the version I like the most because I love musicals. With Victor Victoria I preferred the film. Now granted the film is a musical to an extent. It's a strictly diegetic one, but it is a musical nonetheless. Victor Victoria on stage was a musical. And I'm not going to talk about it much at all because we have an anniversary coming up in a couple of weeks, so there will be a Today in Julie Andrews History video on this exact movie coming up very soon. And that's when I'll talk about it a bit more. So really the reason this is at the bottom has more to do with the other version than this particular movie itself. So I guess in a way it's not this musical's fault that it's at the bottom of this list. Now I'm going to move on to number 4, and I'm actually going to talk about it and number 3 together because they're kind of a package deal. And that is Phantom of the Opera at the Royal Albert Hall and Love Never Dies. See what I mean about them kind of being a package deal? I don't think I've ever watched one of them without the other. If I have, it's been so long ago that it doesn't even really count. Even if I don't watch them on the same day, even if I watch one of them the next day, I don't think I will ever watch one without having watched the other fairly recently. And it doesn't have to be in any specific order. Last time I watched Love Never Dies first, and then the next day I watched Phantom. And that actually kind of works, honestly. I did a whole video back when I was very young and very formative on this channel about Love Never Dies and defending it. But if you count it as canon, which I do, going straight from Love Never Dies to Phantom actually works okay story-wise, and it makes the opening prologue framing device thing in Phantom actually part of the plot. I'm not going to spoil anything, but if you know the story of Love Never Dies, you can probably see what I mean. And honestly, I'd say I prefer Love Never Dies slightly more. I know it's fanficky and ridiculous and has no reason to exist, but it was my intro to the Phantom universe, for all intents and purposes. I have seen it at the theatre where I haven't with Phantom. Before that, really, I'd only seen the movie. And let's not talk about the movie. Also, I find Ralph kinda boring, so I'm on Team Eric. And say what you want about Love Never Dies and its plot and all that, as a production to watch, it's incredible. And I know of a story that could be considered a sequel to Phantom that's even more far-fetched. I'll talk about that in a future video. But as far as the movies themselves go, they are amazing, both just as a show in general, but the acting and the way it's filmed and all that, they're just wonderful. With Phantom, I love how the orchestra's at the top of the stage. And for all Ralph's dullness, Hadley Foster is gorgeous and remains just so cool. Sierra, just wow, that voice. Her version of Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again gets stuck in my head all the time. That bit at the end of All I Ask for You, where Eric's at the top of the stage and you hear them singing and he just places his hands over his ears like he doesn't want to hear it. And I was actually just watching this song on YouTube a few hours earlier and I almost cried. I feel so bad for him. Ramin plays that scene so well. And the way he places his hands over his ears and just tries to shut it all out, it almost makes me think of an autistic meltdown. I'm autistic, so maybe that's why I see it like that. Sierra and Ramin almost seem to have become the Phantom and the Christine, but Ben and Anna are just as amazing. Also, and this just kind of is comparing these two as movies next to each other rather than the shows in general, but it also works very seamlessly in a way, even though it's a completely different set of actors from a completely different country and that. I really don't have any problem believing that Anna is playing a grown-up version of Christine. Think of Anna as playing a grown-up version of Sierra's Christine even. Particularly Miriam Mercedes as Madame Giry. She is perfect in playing a older Madame Giry. Love Never Dies gets a lot of flack that I don't think it really deserves. Don't write it off just because it's a sequel to Phantom, because it's an amazing production. If you're hesitant about watching it because it's a sequel to Phantom, seek out the music. And then if you like some of that, go and try the show. So that's number 3 and number 4. So now we're up to number 2, which is Legally Blonde. In one word, this musical makes me happy. I get emotional during the Legally Blonde scene where she's leaving. But apart from that, and even with that, I just have a smile on my face the entire time I watch this musical. Like I said at the beginning of this video, if there is a musical version of a story, that is usually my favourite. And this is the most obvious example of that. And I like this one not just because it's a musical, but it changes some things in a way that I like more from a storytelling point of view, rather than just adding songs. Like the end of Elle and Warner's relationship, I like it so much more in the musical than I do in the film. It's very different, and even though it seems like Elle's being way too kind and Warner's getting off easy, it works. Elle's friends are awesome, and I love that we get to see them throughout the entire show, even if they're not there the entire show. This is just a huge step up from the movie. Even putting the music and the songs aside, I think story-wise, the musical is so much better than the film. Elle's relationship with Warner and her relationship with Vivian are just so much better. They do pretty much the same things as they do in the film, but you love them a lot more. Laura Bell is Elle. Reese Witherspoon who. And every time Elle's feeling something, it shows. She plays Elle so well no matter what Elle's feeling. And Christian Borle is wonderful. I never really bought into Luke Wilson as Emmett, but in the musical he's so much better. He actually might be the thing they changed that I love the most. Also, you can watch this one for free and sing along because there's subtitles. Link in the down below. And finally, number one, I'm sure you all saw this coming. Hamilton. Hamilton is my favourite musical ever. Scratch the film, scratch the movie. It's my favourite musical, full stop. Even though I haven't seen it, I already know it's my favourite. So of course it tops the list. And the movie has the original cast. And when it comes to Hamilton, the original cast means more than the original cast of most other shows, I think. What else can I say about this movie that hasn't been said already? What else can I say about this movie that I haven't said already? I talked about how Laura Bell Bundy is Elle Woods. Well, Hamilton just steps that up another notch. Lin-Manuel Miranda is Alexander Hamilton for me, and I think for 99% of other Hamilton fans. The original cast means something with Hamilton that I don't think it does for most other shows. I've already done a whole review for this. As far as the movie itself goes, well, I haven't actually seen it on the stage yet, but the movie, oh my god, the choreography is insane, and we all knew that. But the one that stands out to me, particularly for the movie, is Ten Door Commandments. Ten Door Commandments blows me away, not necessarily because of the choreography itself, but because of how it was filmed. Filming in this is unlike any other on this list. None of the other shows have a moment where you look like you're hanging from the ceiling and looking down at the stage. You don't get to look as though you are on the stage staring out of the audience in any of the others in the same way you do with Hamilton. I don't know who decided they would put cameras up there and at the back of the stage, but I love that they did. It's so awesome. I've heard people say that they don't think Lin's acting is the best in the cast, but if he's the worst, and personally I would not say that, then that just shows you how phenomenal the entire thing is. I made a whole video about whose musical is Hamilton really, trying to work out whose story is it. After all, you don't have control. And I think everybody got their opportunity to shine. Even Peggy. Jasmine's back for Act 2 as Mariah, and oh my god, just wow. It's very hard to make a song about adultery and blackmail so interesting, but she pulls it off. I bought Disney Plus just to see this. So hard to talk about all of these really specifically, even though I watched them all very, very recently in preparation for this. It's hard to talk about these specifically as films rather than just the show itself in a general sense, even though I'm pretty sure these will be the show for me. Heck, with Love Never Dies, what I saw at the theatre is exactly what they filmed. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments, what is your favourite production that has ever been filmed? And what ones would you recommend I watch? I think the two I really want to see the most are The King and I, as well as the one of Oklahoma with Hugh Jackman. But if you have any recommendations, let me know. We'll be talking more about Victor Victoria in a couple of weeks. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my video next week. So long, farewell!